we
Okay.
go.
Is that okay?
Yes, that's perfect. Perfect.
Oh, great.
Perfect.
It's actually more comfortable too, so that works well.
Yeah, awesome. Welcome everybody to the Tarot Girls Talk with Sophie from Jolly Daydream Tarot and myself, TinieTarot. So you're very welcome to leave us some questions and we will be happy to serve you with the cards. And as long as there's nobody here, let's maybe do each other
Speak
some
to each
cards.
other?
Yes, of course. Do you have a specific question?
So, do I have a specific question? I could ask. How can I be as strong as I possibly can be in the coming weeks at work? I'm thinking particularly at work.
I get the Knight of Cups, so it's again an emotional card. And the Knight is very brave, right? The Knight is brave and doesn't worry about sharing his emotions and showing other people how he feels. So once again, basically like last time we spoke about it, right? It's about like not worrying about sharing whatever is going on inside of you, and maybe not with everybody, but you know, with the people that you trust, to just share what's going on and to be honest, no, and to let it out. Like if you need a little cry or you need to like kick a bucket, kick it and cry or whatever, you know, let it out, and it's gonna help you to deal with the things that are going on, which I imagine are not so easy in these times.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Let me show you the card also. So he's like, you know, he's Prince Charming, right? Very often people describe this guy as Prince Charming also, the Knight of Cups. But this is usually in a reading where there's questions about relationships or whether or not this guy likes me. I think in your case, you are this person and you are like going out to share what you feel and to open your heart. And then, you know,
because he's like brave. The Knight is brave. It's an interesting kind of mix of different opposite traits, really, isn't it? Because the knights are very brave and very courageous, but on the other hand, you don't necessarily think of the emotional realm of being very brave or courageous. You think of it as being more feminine and receptive, and of course, knights are very active.
Yes. True.
So perhaps there's something in that kind of not being actively passive, but being actively receptive. Yeah, it's interesting how that came up again, isn't it?
Yes. And how do you feel about this guy looking back?
Well, yeah, I was going to say
he's
not looking forward, is he?
Yes.
Yeah. What immediately popped into my head was that he may be looking back on his past experiences to guide him forward. So I don't see that as I guess it could be something that is actually not helpful sometimes to look back. But I see that as a helpful thing. I see that as a drawing on your past experiences.
You know what else I was thinking about? There is this saying here in Belgium, and maybe you guys also say it, you know, those who love me, may they follow me, you know? Those who love me, follow me. And it's like, I don't know, like sometimes I feel with the Knight energy that they are so enthusiastic about whatever they are doing that they are kind of, you know, assuming that more people will follow their example. Yes.
Yeah.
So I also sometimes feel like the Knight is kind of wondering, like, so where is everybody else? Like, why isn't anybody following me, or is anybody following me? You know what I mean? So it's also like this maybe this wondering about, like, am I really alone in this, you know? And then at the same time, maybe the cards giving you this this comfort, like you might be alone or you might feel alone, but you're never alone, you know? It might seem like you're alone because nobody's following you literally or physically. but really you're not, because there's always going to be people who
I think that's a great insight, actually,
right?
Tinie, because it does very much feel like you're on your own journey, but yet you're not. You are, and probably everybody's it's been their own night on their own horse and trying to navigate through difficult times in their own way. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome.
Shall I pull a card for you?
Yes, my card is about what I'm doing now, career-wise. Like, where should my focus be to proceed in a good way, like to have the results that I'm hoping for.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so you have the Two of Cups.
Yes.
I'm using the Allocator. Can you see that? Is that glary?
You can go down a little bit more with your cards. Yes, this gives a nice image. Yes, that's good. Okay. It's perfect. We can see it really well now.
Okay.
So there's like a curtain and two people kind of being intimate together behind this curtain.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it because I'm not familiar with these decks so much.
It looks nice. It's a
yeah, actually, it's interesting, that kind of curtain. They're putting across for a bit of privacy.
Yes.
That's what it feels like, or looks like. But I mean, essentially, you've the Two of Cups is about union. It's about bringing together, and I mean, it's about partnership. Actually, I often see this as very much a card of when you find somebody who you can work really well with. I mean, obviously it does have romantic connotations as well, but it's not necessarily about that. I feel like it's about good partnership. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can be business partnership. It can be friendship.
Yes.
And it's also about bringing together different ideas. So I think I'm really getting like two messages for you with your business, relating it back to your question. The first is, if there's somebody that you can work with, or somebody that you can bring their energy together with yours and fuse to make something wonderful, then I think that's definitely something to explore. The problem is with two insights, I have to remember what the second one was while I'm butchering on about the first one. The second one was about bringing your own differences together. So whether when you're thinking about part of your own personality that you might think, oh, that's not really something that is maybe appropriate for my business. I think actually this card is asking you to examine whether it is something that is appropriate, and whether you can actually bring all aspects of yourself into this business somehow. And maybe some parts might need tempering or adjusting, but it's about the complete package. And I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
Can you bring the card a little bit more down? A little bit more down? Like, yes, there we go. Perfect. That's nice. That's a nice view. Yes, so it's like, it's interesting because the number 2, to maybe go back to the numerology, is about individuality also, So the number 2 is about boundaries and kind of knowing who you are, and yes, like who am I as an individual, and where do I set the boundaries? Yeah. And it's so nice how the 2 then also relates to this couple, because I think they are successful as a couple or as partners in whatever, like business ventures or whatnot, because of this clarity about who they are, and their self-love and their self-care. And then to be like, able to share, to have like this mutually shared success kind of.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say, when something you said there triggered me to remember that the first thing we noticed was the curtain. The first thing we noticed, or you noticed, was the curtain. That idea of, and when I looked at it, I said to you, it's as if they're trying to create a sense of privacy. And that also makes me think that in the line of work that you're in, I mean, I assume you're talking about your tarot business, right?
Yes.
So in this kind of line of work, I think it's very easy to. It requires you to be open. It requires you to be honest. But I think there's also a really important message that actually there are some things about your life that maybe you don't need to share, that maybe you don't need to reveal. And it's about, I think, you mentioned boundaries, and maybe it's about looking at the boundaries of I want to be open, I want to be transparent because that's the nature of my business. But are there certain aspects, like where are my boundaries there? Are there certain aspects that I really would prefer to keep private, and maybe I can make note of them or see how I can work with that, and just, work at ways of keeping what's sacred.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel that. And also it's the cups, right? It's the cup elements. The card that you took, it's the Two of Cups.
It's the Two of Cups, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, because I'm also thinking like boundaries, like work, play boundaries also maybe, to know when enough is enough. And as I am a really emotional person, usually the emotion tells me, when I'm getting like overly emotional and a little bit too, like...
Too involved.
Too involved, yes. This is when I know it's time to, to have a break.
Well, that shows that you're very, what that shows is that you're very giving, and you're very intuitive, and a great tarot reader, really, because you're giving yourself fully in that sense, and you're being very present and immersing yourself in that your querent or your client's questions. But at the same time, there has to be, I think it's a really good point you raised, because there has to be some boundaries, and there has to be that you need to look at ways, how do I cut that off? How do I cleanse myself almost? How can I leave that where it is and move on with my own life? And how can I put up a bit of a boundary, i.e. the curtain, and not allow the not taking on people's emotions and then bringing that into my own life. Yeah.
Yes. It's a practice, right? I'm sure this is something that you are also dealing with, to leave the hospice at the hospice.
Yeah,
and to keep clear
and sometimes
boundaries.
it's easier than other times. So it's not, but if you've got strategies in place, I think that definitely helps.
Yeah.
So although yes, it is something you learn with time, it's also something I think you have to practically apply techniques to as well. Yeah. Thanks for chipping in. That really helped.
So I see that Jay just arrived. Maybe he has a question that we can address in the live. Hey, Jonathan. Welcome to the live. Do you have a question for us? If he's still there. He's thinking about it. Actually, Sophie, I think, but it's difficult with your phone probably, but I think you could also maybe check YouTube and see what's going on. But anyway, I can share the questions with you. It doesn't matter. It's not necessary.
Oh yeah, I could. I don't think I'll do that this time, just because otherwise it will,
I understand. No, it's better not to rock the boat.
Rock the boat.
Let's not rock the boat.
Steady on. Open a window on my phone. Good grief, Tinie. Steady on now, dear.
So far, so good.
So should we compare a card while we're waiting?
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
You can pull a card first, and then I can have a look at that crazy deck that I have here with the geometrical shapes.
Oh, is that what? Yeah, I do. I really like that deck. It's surprisingly
accurate, right?
Easy to read so far, hasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, let's just randomly pick a card then. Oh, not that one.
Not that random, but okay.
Not that random. Okay, all right. I'll just pick this one. This was more random, but it's just because we just discussed the Six of Cups and before we came on, and then we just discussed the Two of Cups. So this is the one that I pulled. Can you see that?
Something different. Yes. I don't know what it's. The swords. The Two of Swords.
It's the Two of Swords.
Yes. Wow, beautiful.
And it's an interesting Two of Swords, isn't it? Because it's different to the others. There's not a blindfolded figure, as we commonly see in the Two of Swords.
Well, not blindfolded, but still looking away, though. Kind of like ignoring what's going on.
Yeah. There's definitely a sense of ignoring, isn't there, in this card?
Yes. Okay, let's have a look. Let's see what if I can find. Ah, wow! It's like
There.
the fifth card. I didn't have to look very far. Here it is. Look how pretty it is. It's so beautiful.
Oh, I like that.
Very nice
Yeah.
design. And so blue.
Yeah, I really like that.
Well, I think your card does have more like a story to go to start from. So maybe it's interesting
Well,
to see what your.
I mean, like I say, I haven't really used this deck before, and I'm struck by this. I see this as like the thoughts representing the mind, a mindset and thoughts, and how it's just blocking. It's trying to block the inevitable almost. Because it looks like that choppy sea is on its way in, doesn't it? It looks like it's...
Yeah. Yes, and the
like
swords are kind of put as a door, but it's obvious that they will not stop the water from flowing in. And how interesting is it that water is also emotion, right?
Yes.
So it's like whatever is on your heart, whatever is in your heart, you will not be able to rationalize that away, yeah? I think like this might be
sure. I'm thinking about what you said. Yeah, it's because I'm also thinking about how the more traditional Two of Swords, it also has water in the background, doesn't it? It also has that water. And I think traditionally it's about sort of following your intuition and quietening down and being able to listen and being able to truly listen to, let yourself be your guide. But it's almost as if this card shows what happens when you don't do that.
Bring the card down a little bit. Can you bring the card down a little bit again? Yes, there we go. And a little bit further, like further away. Zoom out a little bit. And down. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, there we go.
I can't
yes, much better.
see.
No, it's better now. Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, and if you bring it just like 1 inch more down, we will also see the moon in the... Yes, now this is the perfect position. Yes.
You know, the problem is that I'm going to wreck you having guided me to this position because I need to actually look at the card to kind of...
Yes, I understand, yeah.
Get some more ideas,
It doesn't matter. It's perfect
But
now.
let's have a look at your card while I turn it around and look at it.
Well, I think in my card, there is more of that dilemma, opposing ideas, a little bit more of like the paradox is more clear in this card.
Yeah.
But then of course the blue in the background, this is about the emotions, right? So there is this emotional going on. There is some emotions that are still visible and not to be ignored, even though there is these swords bickering.
I mean, on the other hand, looking at this, can you see this card again?
Yes, I see it.
We could actually take this to mean the complete opposite. So in other words, it's necessary to remove emotion from this decision-making process. It's necessary to turn away from that and think logically.
Yes.
I mean, that could be, you know, you can flip that. We could flip that completely and have that meaning. Or the only thing with that is that he doesn't look very happy. He doesn't look as though he's reached a decision. He doesn't look like that has brought peace and understanding. So I think it's probably more balancing the two, perhaps balancing logic with emotion. That's where, in terms of decision making, that's where the answer lies.
Well, the Two of Swords came up in my daily tarot reading that I post on the Instagram. And there was a very nice, there were two swords crossed over a stream. And there was a blindfolded bird sitting on top of the cross of the two swords. Like, very cute, with a little nest in there. And I felt like it was about freedom also to choose what you need to choose, you know, like to free yourself somehow from and maybe this is the thing, maybe it's the emotions kind of imprisoning us, no? Like this emotional turmoil that is keeping us from being at liberty to make the right choice. So I think you're
Yes, no, exactly.
you're definitely
Quieting
onto
quieting
something.
that down and removing it. But looking at your card, I'm really drawn to the point at which those two forces meet. The brown triangle, or the blue triangle, and the white triangle. That point is the point of clarity, almost. That's the crossover. That's the balance. That's the balance between the emotion and the thought that allows us to be able to make a decision.
Yes. So in the end, it's again about balance, right? It's always, I mean, it's very often coming down to this when the tarot speaks, like to find a balance between the elements present.
I suppose that's what the whole really, I suppose in some ways you could say that's what tarot is all about, isn't it? Living in the art of balance and noticing and being using it as a tool to see what's out of balance.
Totally.
Yeah.
So Jay has a question for us.
Okay.
It's a very interesting one, actually, and not so easy. So I hope the
Good.
tarot
Let's
might
have a
shed some
challenge.
clarity on this. Yes. So where is the collective consciousness heading?
Oof.
Yes.
Oof.
And what can we expect collectively within the next 7 years? So because the next 7 years is a very interesting period. It's actually not even 7 years anymore. It's getting less and less as we speak. But 2027 is supposed to be a big year of transformation, according to many astrologers or astrologists. What is it? Astrologist? Anyway, according to many people who are into astrology, 2027 is going to be a big one. So what's going on in the next 7 years with the collective consciousness? Is there going to be the awakening that we are all hoping for, or is it going to be something else? Wow, this is a very big one, Jay.
What was I guess we could kind of divide it into two questions, really, though, right? So the first one was
yes. So where is the collective consciousness heading?
Nowish.
So what's going on with the collective with the energy of the? We can even do like a past, like a past, present, future one, or maybe just the present one. Like, what is the collective consciousness's energy at present? And then maybe we can look at the future.
We can also do a really cool spread that I got from I saw one of Ethany's videos the other day, and it was just a really easy 3-card spread, which was where we are now, which I can doctor it from where you are, where we are now, where we're going, and how to get there.
Perfect. Yes, this sounds like what I had in mind also. So that's perfect. So shall you do the honors for the first card? So where are we at?
Okay, where we're at. Alternatively, we could both pull 3 cards and see what comes up. That could be quite interesting.
This is also a good idea.
I don't know whether the how to get there is relevant in this spread. That's the only thing, because
I think it's very relevant.
Sorry?
I think it's absolutely relevant. How to get there? Oof. Oh my God, yeah. Please give us some inspiration. And I think that if any, the collective can definitely do with some inspiration now. Not that anybody's watching besides from Jay, but
the main thing is that Jay is watching, because that's his question.
Yes, exactly.
I'm just going to spread them out and do something differently.
Okay, I'm gonna do one more shuffle. Jay says that the people will come. We just need to keep going. So I'm gonna put the 3 cards.
It's good. It's good that we're just enjoying it anyway. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, shall I share with you what came up?
Yeah, sure.
So I have the 5 of Wands.
Oh, okay.
Upside down.
By the way, just to say, I've got my cards here, so you can see that they're okay, because it's interesting.
So
yes,
5
Tinie.
of Wands. Then I have the Page of Cups. And then finally, the Seven of Cups. Wow, but I think the first card, it's immediately resonating with me. Because there's this whole, like, this is what's going on right now, right? Collectively. So, like, a lot of bickering, fighting, who's right, who's wrong, what idea is best, like, we should do this, no, we should do that, and this is the way to do it, no, this is the way to do it. So, yeah, I have a feeling that this is a very correct, it's not the most positive aspect of what's going on right now, but I think it's absolutely, it's on, no, it's true. Like, we saw what happened with the elections, and we're not there yet. The elections in the States. And I think in general, like with the whole Corona thing, like there's so many opinions, and the one people say this and the other people say that, and everybody wants to be right. And in the end, it's more about being right, I feel, than about finding some happiness and harmony and enjoying the life together, Like, this is what I think is painful sometimes. Like, who cares about the opinions?
Well, yeah. And the Five of Wands is also can be about how if we think about the collective, how we really when we're working against each other, we're not achieving. We can't achieve as much as we want to. It's holding us back.
Yes.
So it's about finding ways that we can work well together, I think, is in part of a solution base to that problem. But interestingly, I got the Seven of Wands for that position, which is also a card of conflict. Can you see that?
Yes. If you bring it down just a little bit more down. Yes, that's perfect. Yes. Now I can see it really well. Wow, this is a really cool drawing also.
The Seven of Rods, which is the Seven of Wands from the Anna Kay Tarot. And as you said, it's a card of conflict. But more than that, this is a card of defense, a card of defending, of feeling the need to defend what's yours. And because we're talking about the collective consciousness, I feel it's somehow become so important to us to defend our beliefs, or to defend defend what we think to be right. Why is this so important to us? It's as if we don't want to be challenged. We're not willing to have conversations. I think that's a massive thing. We're not willing to engage. We just I think there's an energy where everybody just wants to be
quite defensive,
right? But also everybody's operating out of fear. There's so much fear, and there's a lot of fear and feeling that we need to and also defend not just our beliefs, but defend our families, defend our homes. There's a real we have to be careful that it doesn't spiral into selfishness. I think we're probably already there. That sort of exposure of the human trait of selfishness, which I know we all have, but it's as if that's what's ruling at the moment, isn't it? Like a sense of fear and selfishness, really.
Yes, I hear you. And I was listening to Kaipacha the other day. I don't know if you're familiar with Kaipacha. I've mentioned him before. He's this astrologer who lives in Costa Rica, an American astrologer who has beautiful insights based on what he sees in the stars and the planets. And but he universalizes it so beautifully. Like, I really enjoy his Pele reports on Wednesdays. And he was like, last Wednesday, he said something so amazing. Like, he said, these are times of hardening, We are hardening, toughening up, like really withdrawing into our own beliefs and our own rights and wrongs. And he's like, what the world needs right now, like we can only bring the balance back if we soften, open our hearts more, dance, sing, enjoy, go back to like the little things, like the connections that bring us together, the similarities between people, like to really counterbalance this hardening, yeah. And I really feel that I felt it so strongly when he said that. Like I basically posted something recently also about this on Instagram, and then maybe I can bring this card back to like the numerology and the archetype. Like, with the Ilian's advice in my head. So the 5 is actually the number of observation. So it doesn't necessarily mean any conflict. Like often in the Rider White, the 5 is conflict because in our observations there is regret, or there is like I could have done better, or I don't like what I see, right? But actually it's just observation. It's not anything bad or good, you know. It's actually the opposite of good or bad. It's really staying out of judgment as you zoom out and see what is really going on in a bigger in the bigger movie, so to say. So to kind of come out of your own story and to see how your story fits into a much bigger picture, and to see how everything connects, basically. And I think when we look at the wands, it's about how does my expression and how does what I realize in the world, how does this connect and how does this ripple out into the world, no? And then exactly to question, like, okay, if I harden myself and I am like, this is my opinion, what kind of effect does this have? Whether if I soften and when I open my heart and I'm like a good person and I share my my creativity, it's a completely different story, right? Like, so
Tinie, I'd like to stay where we are at the moment and move on with just the next card, which was where we're going, because I got the 5 of Wands. I got the 5 of Rods for this card.
Oh, wow.
Which is very interesting because you pulled that. Can you see this?
Yes.
Can you see it clearly?
Yes. Nice.
Okay. So because this is like where we're going, or I guess going back to Jonathan's question, you know, then he specifically asked for the next 7 years. And what I think is interesting about this card is what you just said about the idea of observation, because here is a slightly different to your 5 of Wands representation. There's like a arm wrestle, and there's people watching the arm wrestle, but it's in more of a friendly environment. There is observation going on there, and there's almost an acceptance of the fact that you know, people need to engage in conflict and in competition, and people, it's necessary, but it can be done in a more accepting and harmonious way. And I feel that that's really important for where we're heading, because I think unlike the 7 of Rods in this deck, where it was much more about defending and attacking and almost getting lost in that energy and forgetting what we're actually defending here, or losing sight of what's important. Whereas this card, actually, I feel more positive about, because, you know, I feel it's more about being prepared to observe and listen to other people's conflicting opinions and ideas. I feel like there's more of a sense of there's still going to be conflict, there's still going to be different ideas being shared about, but it's about being able to listen more to them. It's about actually being prepared to enter into a healthy conflict, a healthy debate, because I think that's part of the problem now. So many of us aren't even prepared to listen. We so want to be right, or we so want to push our own point of views forward. We're not prepared to enter into useful dialogue. So I actually feel it's quite positive in that, yes, there's still going to be quite a lot of conflict, there's still going to be differences, but perhaps the exchange will move to be healthier. Perhaps people will be prepared to listen. Perhaps people will be prepared to observe. And perhaps people will be prepared to be more accepting. Be more accepting of inevitable differences.
Yes, very cool. I like your explanation of this card. Jay was suggesting the defensive position that we were speaking of earlier, in the here and now position, that maybe this is the defending of the old ways. You know, the defending of patriarchy, the defending of capitalism, the defending of, you know, all those old big structures that seem not to be sustainable in this time, right? And that are looking, I mean, it looks like they will crumble at some point.
It does look like they'll crumble. That's it's really cool that you put it back to that, because I think that's really, really relevant. 7's also about the struggle before a big change, the struggle for something, like breaking free of something. And I think that definitely you're right. There's a need to look at what we're defending, and actually use the struggle and the conflict and the turmoil to actually grow and create better healthier systems, or even I think probably more tech-based solutions. That's definitely the way that we're going, I think.
Yes.
And I think that can be positive. It doesn't have to be. It's probably like a double-edged sword, really, isn't it? But I think there's probably a lot of benefits to that. Maybe.
So your second card was the Five of Wands. My second card is the Page of Cups. So it adds a bit of heart to the mix, yeah? Some emotional connection. And it's funny, like I had this card came up in a reading, and there was such nice connotations made, like how she looks so vulnerable and slightly out of balance, like trying to balance that thing on her head and to catch the drop that's coming from the thing. I don't know how you call this, the teapot. The teapot teapot is tipping over, and like the emotion is, it's tipping over. There's like a tipping point, and there's some emotion coming out. So it's like she's trying to keep everything together, but then it's not really exactly working. So I think the Page of Cups is about this vulnerability and not really knowing exactly how to deal with all that emotion now. And to feel a lot and to be like, wow, I have a heart and it's like so full, and what do I do with all this emotion? And it's making me so vulnerable. And maybe this is exactly the next step of humanity, to kind of own, like maybe not to own it immediately, but more to accept that we are emotional beings and that sometimes it is hard, and to just to agree to the fact that we are, that we don't always know, and that we are sometimes crazy and emotional and not really, we don't have any clarity when we are super emotional, and to kind of be honest about this now,
and also to be I think to add to that as well, to be understanding of to kind of have a willingness to be understanding of why other people are thinking the way that they are,
yes.
and what their emotional background is, and what emotion you can discern behind what they're saying.
Yes.
And behind their beliefs and actions. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Because once you are honest about the fact that you are an emotional being that has feelings and that is not always keeping it together, and that is vulnerable and not always as balanced, to just recognize that in other people, and to be okay with that. I think this is very important. Thank you.
What did you get for the last card of how to get there? Of how to get to, so just to clarify, how to get to a place where we're able to have open discussions, where we're able to be a bit more, we're able to observe our differences and accept them, and be willing to be a bit more solution focused rather than just conflict focused, and bringing your Page of Cups into it, to be willing to be
vulnerable,
understand that people are emotional beings, and understand the emotion behind the points of view. So how do we get to that point? Because I do see that as a healthier transition of coming from a place of almost bloody mindedness to a place where we're actually understanding more, even where our own and others' opinions are coming from, and being more flexible with that arm wrestle, being more flexible to actually to be able to discuss leaving our egos at the door. So I think I do see that as more positive. But how do we get there? That's the important thing. What's the next card?
It's the Seven of Cups. Which is yours?
No, I've got the Two of Swords again. Which is,
wow.
Yeah.
Funny. This card wants to be seen today, yeah? The Two of Swords.
Oh, the Two of Swords. Oh, no, it keeps coming up. I'll talk about this first, because then I think we can add your layer of the cups again to it. We already spoke about the Two of Cups, of how to get there. So I think it really echoes what we were saying with this card, doesn't it? Yes. Which is that whole balance of being able to be opinionated and have an opinion. Because I say that because the swords are the suit of the thoughts, the mind, and also communication. which is very
Yes,
important
the
here.
swords are communication, yes.
So, you know, the idea of being able to successfully blend and articulate thoughts that come from a very passionate and emotional place, because otherwise we won't be we're not you know, we're not being, these are our convictions because they come from a place of emotion, I think, a lot of them. So it's understanding being able to communicate well our different ideas and thoughts, while also keeping the emotional side in check. So not allowing ourselves to bringing emotion into discussions, but not allowing it to overtake them.
Not be overwhelmed
which is so easily done when you feel very strongly about something.
Yes, perfect. It makes a lot of sense in this context. Well, the Seven of Cups.
How come you add the Seven of Cups to that?
Well, the seven. Let's stick with the numbers and the suits. So the seven.
Well, we have another seven here as well, Tinie. Remember the seven of wands in the first card. So that's two sevens. It might be
interesting to address the numerology in the seven. So the seven is actually it's like the end of the experience of the consciousness, because the 8 and the 9 are not considered experiences; they are considered states. Because 8 is a state of infinity, and 9 would be the state of mastery, of mastership, or of the teacher. So the 7 is when it's the number of completion, the number of perfection, the number when everything is kind of, you know, this is why probably it's shown as the number of struggle often, because it's like this transcendence, like we want to reach something better at the end of the journey, maybe, yeah. So that's a possibility. And also the 7, I see it as I used to call it the number of the architect often, because there's a 4 and a 3 in the 7 accumulated, and the 4 is the number of organization, of rules, laws, regularity, the grid. And then the 3 is the number of expression, of creation and creativity. So the 7 kind of combines the organizing principle with the expressive and creative principle. So that's why I call it the architect, because he's creative and artful, but at the same time also obeying some laws, right? There has to be laws. Because otherwise the house wouldn't stand, and it needs to be big enough and strong enough and blah blah blah. So 7 is the number of the architect in this sense. So an organized expression, so to say. So actually this kind of ties into what you said about, you know, not letting your emotion rule, to express yourself without like blurting out. It's more like to express yourself beautifully in a way that is understandable for others, to think before you speak. And to make sure that it ties into that it works. No, it has to work. Like this is the 4. The 4 is about this organizing thing that like makes things work. Yeah. We have a question, by the way. Joe's Mystics is asking us what's going on with his love life.
Okay, just to wrap up Jonathan's though,
yes.
I really like what you said about architect. It made me think about really carefully constructing and building the future that we want. But also, you know, the 7 of Cups is also thought about. Can I see your 7 of Cups actually?
Well, in this deck, it's kind of related to, there's a lot going on. You know, there's so much going on that it's like too much to deal with almost. See, so it's quite far from the numerology that I was
but
just
Tinie,
saying.
looking at that 7 of Cups, I feel like that's very much about also manifesting and putting out into the world what you would like, how the change you would like to see. That whole be the change. So how we can get to a place where we're at least more willing to listen to each other and observe more objectively and engage in dialogue, I think, is to really be the change that we want to be, because it's impossible to, it's so disheartening, and it can be, you know, impossible to try. And I think the most effective way to change others, if that's what your objective is, or is to just be that change. It's the whole
yes.
it's the whole preacher trying to trying to convert people, but actually what they don't realize that actually the best way to convert people is to live by example, not just what words are coming out of your mouth, not just the rhetoric, basically.
Here, yes. So maybe to conclude, so to go from that conflictuous, selfish position into a more vulnerable state where we're open to what other people are feeling and saying, and then to eventually be maybe more disciplined about what we think and feel, because we live by example, and whatever we have on our minds and in our hearts is eventually also going to manifest. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think as well, to conclude, it does make sense. I think basically, Jonathan, I feel like for the reading shows there's an awful lot of work to be done, and I think the fact there's 2 5s and 2 7s that came up does indicate, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be conflict, there's going to be struggle, but there's also going to be growth from that. It's almost inevitable, but it's good because it's about us being working on ourselves to help the process, to help facilitate the process, and to be as open and diplomatic and willing to listen to others as we can. Yeah. Beautiful. I hope that made sense. I'd be really curious to know your feedback. If you could write that in the comments, if you would be so good as to do that, that would be great. Yeah. So, and anything you might like to add, I'd be really interested to hear. Yes. So I really like added. Yeah.
So okay, sorry, go ahead. Let's see about Joe and his question about his love life. So his question is, what's going on with my love life? So let's see what energy is now at hand. I see the sun.
Oh, lovely. What a wonderful card to get.
Yes. The sun is a very upbeat and clear card. The sun is full light, no? Obviously, very fiery. It's also the masculine energy, so very active, also outgoing. So I think now is a good time for Joe to take initiative if this is on. If there is somebody you like, or there is some change that you would like to see, to just go for it, like it's okay to be the man. You are now in that energy, and there's full clarity also, so it's pretty clear that there is clarity about what you need to do. Do you want to add something to that, Sophie?
Just that I think there's a very clear message on focus on where you're going, and focus on what you want to bring in to your love life, or who you want to bring in. Just fully focus on that. It's a good time. The sun is such a positive energy and a positive card. I always read it in that way. Wherever it falls in a spread. I mean, sometimes it can be being a bit over optimistic, but that's not in this situation. It's a really optimistic, positive card, and it
Joe just added that she's a girl.
It's inviting you to be very optimistic and to celebrate your skills, really, and your unique talents.
Yes. So it doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl. It's about, when I say masculine and to be the man, I mean like in the archetypical way, right? Like to be active, to be outgoing, to be clear about what you're about. Not that the feminine would be more like about the subconscious and the intuition, the things that are that you read between the lines. The masculine is quite clear and quite open, and not so much between the lines, and right? Very active.
It's like, very active.
So I hope that that helped Joe, if that resonated. So Jay also adds, let me see, because there's so many screens here. He's thanking us, and he says he thinks it's very accurate. He really enjoyed and felt the energy that we both bring, and it's great advice that what we need is to become more objective, as we each hold our own truths, So it's good to take a step back from that sometimes, and to be able to listen to each other. Yes, very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. It was a brilliant question. it was nice to be able to do such a bigger spread for it as well. Yeah.
Yes, and it was inspiring. I really enjoyed it.
So,
And
do we
Joe
have any
is
more
thanking
questions,
us
or
as well. Joe also thanks
shall
us
I go
for
and
the
put the shall I go and
insight.
put the kettle on?
Well, actually, maybe this is not such a bad thing. We can maybe wrap it up and thank whoever was present with us, and ask for a subscribe and to join us next time. It was a pleasure to do the cards. Thank you so much, Sophie. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Tinie. Yeah, such fun.
Yes,
Yeah.
great fun. So we will speak about the schedule after this.
Okay, take care,
Love you
everybody.
guys.
Much love.
Mwah. See you
Bye-bye.
later. Bye bye.